On November 10th, crypto values started plummeting. FTX, one of the top exchange companies in the market, filed for bankruptcy. It came after customers attempted to withdraw billions of dollars at once following a report about the company's financial instability. Josephine Wolff is an associate professor of cybersecurity policy at the Fletcher School at Tufts University. Josephine, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you surprised at the collapse of FTX?
I think I'm a little surprised that there was this kind of collapse where the people who had actually put their money in this institution distrusted it enough to try and withdraw all at once. I'm not surprised that when that happened, it turned out that there was not enough liquidity there to cover those withdrawals.
So does something need to be done to prevent this from happening again in the future?
I think yes. I mean, I've been a little bit of a crypto skeptic for a long time because I come at it from a background of studying cybercrime. And I do think that there are a huge number of vulnerabilities from a criminal standpoint. But I also think you look at a situation like this where nobody was exactly trying to steal this money. And it seems like there's a huge lack of oversight around ensuring that these exchanges have insurance for these accounts the way you would with an FDIC insured account, and fooling people into believing that this is the equivalent of putting their money into a bank when it's clearly very different.
Well, let's talk about oversight because the president issued an executive order in March. He directed federal agencies to come up with ways to regulate digital assets. First, what are the goals outlined in that order?
So the goals outlined in that order are, one, to cut down on the use of cryptocurrency for cybercrime. So things like ransomware or sale of illegal goods online, stuff that's happening almost exclusively with cryptocurrency. There's a real push right now in law enforcement to get better at tracking those payments, to get better at blocking those payments and clawing them back after they're made. And that's a big part of the executive order. But the other part of the executive order, which I think is arguably in direct conflict with that first goal, is what the administration describes as encouraging innovation or leveraging cryptocurrencies and other kinds of virtual currency to enable new forms of banking and financial transfers. And that really suggests a push towards things like central bank-backed digital currency or stuff that I think is going to make it harder to fight the cybercrime that they allude to in the first part of the order.
And I do want to talk about that, which is the supporting of this crypto development. It calls, as you just said, the order actually calls for the development of a central bank digital currency. So where do things stand right now? What benefits would this have?
So that's a great question. I think that it would have very, very few benefits personally. The idea of having a central bank-backed digital currency would be that there would be fewer fees, faster transactions, make it easier to move money internationally, perhaps, that people who don't have bank accounts or are otherwise sort of shut out of the banking infrastructure might be able to use a digital currency more easily. I think if you look at virtual currencies around the world, there's very little evidence that they have provided unbanked people with any services or access, and much more evidence that they've made people who are speculating and investing in these currencies and setting up exchanges like FTX extremely rich.
And what does the crypto industry think of a central bank digital currency?
I think most people in the crypto industry are very excited about it, actually, because it lends a real air of legitimacy to the whole sort of cryptocurrency endeavor. And I think that many of these players feel that sort of the more virtual currency users there are, the more virtual currencies there are, the more well-established and kind of entrenched this whole system will become.
So how is cybercrime currently being addressed, Josephine, and targeted? You know, which federal agencies are involved in doing that?
So I'd say the FBI has been putting a lot of effort in the last couple years into really tracking cryptocurrency payments. And we've seen some pretty high profile arrests of folks who have stolen and laundered cryptocurrency. We've seen at least one very high profile clawback of a cryptocurrency ransom payment in the Colonial Pipeline case. And so there definitely are efforts, and we've definitely seen some progress in that space. But at the same time, there's still a huge amount of cryptocurrency-fueled cybercrime that we're not able to stop and we're not able to track.
And is there something more that the federal government can do in cracking down on that illegal activity?
Yes, absolutely. And we've started to see some hints of it. So one of the things the federal government has started doing just in the past couple of years is they've started sanctioning some of the cryptocurrency intermediaries who are most beneficial to criminal actors. So we've seen like the Suex cryptocurrency exchange, which the government estimated 40% of their transactions were for illicit actors, being sanctioned by the United States. We've seen a little bit of interest in sanctioning a cryptocurrency mixer, which is the company that sort of mixes funds from different cryptocurrency wallets and disperses them out to different accounts, so it's harder to track where money is coming from and whose money comes from which types of thefts or other crimes. And I think you could see the government do a lot more in that space and trying to say, a lot of these exchanges based overseas are fueling criminals or letting them open accounts, and we need to cut off transfers of funds to those exchanges because a lot of the profit from cybercrime is coming from the United States and North America and Western Europe. And so those countries, even though they can't regulate exchanges based in Russia, have some ability to stop money from flowing into those wallets.
I was going to ask you about regulating overseas. The federal government can't do that, but you're saying they can impact what's happening with cybercrime that's coming from overseas.
Absolutely, right. So if you take the example of ransomware, ransomware we think is mostly coming from actors outside of the United States, largely sort of concentrated in Eastern Europe and Russia. But most of the money that is being made off ransomware is coming from the US and from other Western countries. And we even see, if you look at like the code of common ransomware programs, a lot of them are set to not actually execute on computers that have, say, a Russian keyboard configuration. So we know that they're very sort of deliberately targeting players and victims outside of these countries where they're being perpetrated. And that gives us an opportunity not to regulate the exchanges those criminals are using, but to regulate those payments that are being made to them, because those payments are largely coming from within our jurisdiction. And so there is an opportunity to say, no, we don't want payments going to North Korea. No, we don't want payments going to Russia, and to really at least sort of reduce the amount of money that is flowing to them.
All right, Josephine, thanks so much. I appreciate you being on the program.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future Government Matters interviews.